Hi, my name is Jabaar and you are watching Accessibility with Jabaar. The show is about misconceptions about disability and we are engaging in conversation and discussions to benefit the community. We visited CIRO Academy Center where they learn people to become baristas and also offer learnerships in that regard. This interview was taped pre-COVID in 2020. Let's take a look. Hi everyone, my name is Jabaar, the sign agent of Brisbane. Welcome, you're watching the Disability Show on CTV and Open Studio. I am here at CIRO, which is a full service coffee company, but where we are at the moment, we are at the CIRO Coffee Academy Training Center. And what they do here is they train on how, they train people to become baristas, etc. And they are responsible specifically for training some deaf as well, so I'm excited to meet with them. Hello, welcome, thank you. Hi, I'm here at CIRO Coffee Training Academy and I'm meeting with someone in the Western Cape region who's a senior trainer here. His name is Abrahams and we're meeting with him today, so I'm going to ask him more about CIRO. Welcome to the Disability Show on Open Studio CTV.
Thank you.
So CIRO is a training academy and then also the company itself, full service coffee company. So what is the difference between the two?
So CIRO is the organization, and the abbreviation for it is Coffee Importers Roasting Organization. And under the company we have the roasting side, operational side, we've got the sales side, the distribution as well as the technical, and then of course the training side. So the CIRO Coffee Academy is where we train baristas to become coffee professionals and become highly skilled, and a lot of the time we try and find them employment.
Wow, that's very interesting. But before I came here today, for me as a coffee addict, I didn't know that there was a need to study or to train to become a professional barista. Normally we just make coffee at home, instant coffee, so why is it a must that you need to have specific training? Is there special skills that need to be taught?
Well, yes, of course. So working with coffee is actually a science. And as time has passed, we've become more and more aware of what it takes to understand coffee, to understand how coffee behaves with water and with certain conditions. So it is a science, and we teach people to work with coffee and its behavior among all the other elements that can affect it.
Okay, wow, I never thought about that. So when I go home today, I'll think about what I've been taught here. Then also looking at the articles on CIRO, I see that CIRO is the first, say, coffee company that has employed and trained deaf people. Why was this decision made and how was it made to train deaf to become baristas?
Well, the main reason was, we first started about 8 years ago, where we started looking at working with organizations that employ underprivileged people, individuals, and then find them employment and upskill them. But then after about 3 years, we tried to go more in depth and assisted the hard of hearing, so the deaf. And for now, we've been doing that for about 3 to 4 years, almost 5 years, and it's been doing really, really well. In actual fact, we have a 100% employment rate after placing our trained staff.
So what you're saying is that the deaf are able to do something like this. Is it specific? Do you need a grade 12? Do you need to get studies through your NISA? Or you have to have specific qualification? Do you need a grade 12 to be able to become a good barista?
Well, we've set the bar at about grade 10, so if the the individual has a grade 10, then he's able to take part in the program. We then go through some extensive tests to select a suitable candidate, and it's all about being passionate about anything. And from there we introduce them, he or her, to coffee and the world of coffee.
So far, can you tell us how many deaf people has been involved in the CIRO Coffee Academy within South Africa and in the Western Cape?
Well, in the Western Cape, we've probably done roughly just below 10, so about 5 or 6, and they've been doing really, really well. In general, across the country, we've probably done just under 100 or just over 100.
Okay, wow, 100 deaf. So that's kind of like a top in the world. Haven't you seen the international stats yet? I've met with a lot of deaf people so far, and they're very happy about the skills that they've learned from CIRO in becoming the professional barista. But one thing I have picked up, communication itself. So when you are successful in your training and they go into placement, how do you make sure that the communication is clear with the public?
Well, of course, along with this brand called Blacksmith, we've developed a sign language to assist average consumers to communicate with the deaf baristas. And this has done an amazing job in assisting the deaf barista, with confidence. And he's able to communicate with any individual by ordering coffee.
So I'm looking at this now. Oh, I see. So that's espresso, a single espresso, double espresso. Interesting. So are there any other signs for menu items that have not been developed yet? Like, for example, an Americano. I know that's, if you say an Americano with milk, do you still develop other signs?
Well, what happens during training, I think, because there's 20 different dialects in sign language, I've realized that in each region there might be slight differences in signing with when it comes to coffee and tea and that type of thing. So in each specific region, there's a slight difference, but it is easily identifiable and understandable.
Wow, I am impressed that CIRO has accepted deaf culture and has accepted sign language. Because within South Africa, we do have different dialects of the language specific to each region, which is true. With challenges, what challenges have you encountered when placing deaf? Have you encountered any, and what were they like?
Well, in a general sense, of my experience, I haven't had any bad experiences with the baristas. The baristas that are placed is always seen as a positive thing, both for the organization as well as the student. One of the few challenges I do find is that the candidate, it takes a while to express the emotion, and that in general we experience during training. So at a workplace, it is often the fact that they tend to get walked on and that type of thing.
Wow, Christopher, that's very interesting. Do you have a deaf person working here, and what is his name?
Yes, indeed. I've been probably the most privileged trainer in the country to have the opportunity to train a deaf candidate who is actually Mr. Deaf SA himself.
Wow, Mr. Deaf South Africa. So I'm very excited to meet with him. So we will go for a quick break, and after the break we'll meet with this famous deaf barista. Keep watching. We are back from our ad break, and we're continuing our discussion with CIRO Coffee. the shoot was done pre-COVID 2020. Let's take a look. And we are still at CIRO Coffee Academy. And today we've already had a conversation with Christopher, who is the senior trainer here. And I'm just going to ask him, before he introduces us to the Deaf Barista, can you just tell us a bit more about the program itself?
Yes, of course. So the program we run every 3 months, and during that program we train the baristas on 3 or 4 different courses, both from local to international training certification. And then we place them at a place of work or employment, and so far we've had 100% employment rate. So we look at employing them at the SPA groups, the impact group, etc.
Wow, so can you show us what this machine is all about? So we'll have the Deaf Barista do it for us.
Yes, so I'd prefer for my Deaf Barista trainee to show you some of his skills. He's only been here for 3 weeks, but he has developed really, really well. And I think that'll be the best option.
Hi, so I've been very excited to meet you. I heard CIRO has appointed you, you are in training to become a barista. Can you tell us more about that and why did you decide to join this academy? Yes, so I got involved with CIRO for wanting to become a professional barista because it was a passion that I had. I did want to look for experience as well, and it's been difficult in the beginning, but learning the different techniques, and every week I'm learning a lot more, and also my pace of learning is much quicker. These are things that I've never done before. I never really thought that coffee making was a trade, so I make to roll up my sleeves and work hard. And with the training that is happening so far, I've been doing quite well. I'm in coffee. I love coffee. I'm a coffee addict. So I usually just make coffee at home with normal boiling water. So what you have learned is very different. Yes, so it is very different to making coffee at home. Yeah, the training here goes much more in depth. There's a lot of different techniques to make coffee, and also there's a professional way of serving coffee as well. So are there different tastes to coffee, like strong, mild, etc.? Yes, there are. You get the lattes, specifically flavored as well. It depends also on what the customer would like. And depending on the techniques and the taste of the customer, then I can make it. So in the past 3 weeks that you've been trained, and Christopher has trained you, do you feel that you are ready, that you'll be ready after 3 months to go into the workforce? Yes, I think we'll be ready. How will you face the communication challenge? So the 3 weeks that I've been with Christopher, I've picked up a lot, and I feel like I've improved, and I think that once 3 months have passed, I'll be much more improved and have achieved what I needed to do the work. I'm having a look at this menu. The different signs: espresso, Americano. What's the sign for that? Oh, Americano. I always sign it differently. Then cappuccino. That's cappuccino. What's your favorite? A cappuccino and Americano as well. I like it both because the taste, both taste very differently. Cappuccino has the 2 espressos and the Americano is much more stronger than that. Give me the sign for macchiato. It is actually a one single espresso with milk, and also you can choose how many shots of espresso you like. So milk, does it have to be hot or cold? It depends on what the customer would like. We would ask hot milk or cold milk, and whatever option they choose, we serve it with that. Do you think that in the future that there will be more opportunities for the deaf to be baristas? Of course there are hearing baristas. Do you think that in the future there should be more deaf baristas? Yes. I think that there should be more deaf, specifically that we have a chance to work in public and also developing the deaf as well, and that should grow. I do like this very much. The reason for that is it can be distributed within South Africa. So do you have Any more ideas for the future? Any changes or signs that you want to change, or do you want to stay the same? I think that it should be there should be more signs developed specifically to communicate easily, and then I can also show customers what it is they like, and they can also learn the signs. Have you been into a placement to see what it's like, or you're willing to go and see what it's like? No, I haven't yet. If a hearing person approaches you and they are angry and they're not impressed with a coffee, what are you going to do? My approach will be just getting my supervisor, my boss, to help me resolve the issue, because I obviously can't hear the complaint. So tell us more about what you'll be using today. So this is to grind the coffee, and where we will put the coffee that we have grinded, we'll place into this. There's a timer, so it can tell you how many seconds or minutes. So that's perfect. Once it's that amount, it's ready to move over to the machine. It needs to fill exactly the amount that is stated there. I can use this. It presses down the coffee. It's called a tamper. Now this is the water to clean out the coffee. Why I found that is that to make sure that the correct amount is coming out for the double espresso. This is the milk. This is called a ester. That's to steam the milk. We are taking a quick ad break and we'll be back soon. We are back from the ad break and we are continuing our discussion with regards to internships and learnership programs. Now we have a special guest with us. He is from the Department of Labour. He is the Provincial Inspector and his name is Mr. David Iso. And he's joining us today. He's done a lot of research and he's done a lot of inspection to ensure that companies are providing employment opportunities for the disabled as well as internships. Hi David, welcome to Accessibility with Jabaar.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation.
David, so far we've been doing a lot of shoots in terms of internships. So we've been to CIRO Coffee Company that has done internships for the disabled. With regards to the Department of Labour, how do you ensure that companies are establishing internships, whether it be private or public institutions? So how do you make sure that they are implementing that?
Okay, during COVID, it became extremely difficult for us to monitor the implementation of people taking in on internships. Now with a bit of relaxation, we are able to go back to companies and see what's going on. I can, for example, tell you the government and the municipality, to combat the issue of social distancing, they have increased their internship program by a huge number. And they are now offering 24 months internship. And there's almost a guarantee that you will be employed after 24 months of an internship. So what we are now doing is asking companies to do exactly the same, because the slow uptake in the labor market from an economic growth perspective means that a lot of people became unemployed. And now is the opportunity for us to increase the uptake of interns, because the graduate now sits at home doing nothing. Now an internship is when you have graduated already, and that is the opportunity now to bring those people into the labor market through the internship program, because government now needs people to help us combat the whole COVID-19 virus.
I think that's very true about what you're saying, specifically with COVID's impact on the economy.
Yes.
As you mentioned, many people will do internships, they are graduates, etc. I would like to focus on those who have not had the opportunity to study, they have not graduated, however they've got a vast amount of experience. For example, if there's RPL, if the performance is there, how do you provide opportunities for those people, those RPL learners, to be able to enter internship programs?
The department has developed what we call a labor activation program. A labor activation program is to make exactly use of that gap that you are referring to, where people cannot afford to go to tertiary institutions, but they can go to what we would call technical colleges, where you do not need matric. You can develop a technical skill. And so we are using the Unemployment Insurance Act payments to establish labor activation programs, because we want to counter the thing of people coming for UIF benefits by providing them with skills so that they can enter the labor market instead of becoming unemployed and then exhaust the unemployment insurance fund. Because now with COVID, the fund is stressed out because so many people are unemployed. And therefore you need to give people more opportunities. And I want to please ask people, contact the department and ask them to contribute or take part on the labor activation program. It's a special program that has been developed for young people to equip them with technical skills in whichever field they want to venture into.
Wow, David, thank you so much for the advice and for the info you shared with our viewers. I know that someone watching today has a lot of questions. I'm sure that specifically those in the disability field, many of them rely on SASSA, they rely on grants. Just to clarify, if you are getting a grant and you want to become involved in the labor activation program, are you able to keep your grant, or do you need to cut it off, or what is the requirements in that regard?
Yes, in fact the two are linked. What we want to do is try to relieve them from the SASSA grant, because when you participate in the labor activation program, you get what we call a stipend, which is then more than what SASSA is giving you. And in that way, government then, in other words, you invest better in giving money just for survival, where you can give money to develop a skill. And I think that's the way to go. Let's pay people so that they can develop a skill instead of just paying people for the sake of survival, because people are not using that money to develop themselves. It's rather a survival mode. And we do not want people to go into a survival mode. We want to contribute to the economy by creating more employment, and that's why we want to go into the labor activation program. There is a salary that's paid, and it's regulated by us, so you need to be paid a certain salary.
Wow, David, I think that's very interesting. What you've shared with us today is quite valuable. I think there's a lot of people that are watching right now that weren't sure that this was open to them. And I'm hoping that they will be in contact directly with your department with regards to that. It's important for us to also be aware that the disabled community needs to get rid of that reliance on the SASSA grant and rather focus on career growth. So thank you so much for joining us on today's show, and it was nice to speak to you.
Thank you, and tell Jabaar, finally we have met.
So now, all the information about today's show, internships, learnerships, nothing is stopping you guys. So you can get involved, there are opportunities out there. So you don't have to be concerned if you don't have matric or not, you can find a way. How? We will share that information with you on our notice board. So please do contact them if you have an interest in those learnerships or internship opportunities. We will also show more information after the show. Thank you for watching Accessibility with Jabaar. Goodbye.